Hello and welcome back to the ARAH channel here on YouTube. That's the G.I. Joe Real American Hero Costume Club. I am your host and I am your founder, Wild Bill. Last video series we had concluded Article 4 offices. In this series we are going to start with Article 5 elections. And we're going to go into what are the elected positions, which I kind of touched on it a little bit. We'll go into voting protocols, tie-breaking protocols, because that could happen. It has happened in other clubs. So, and then finally, any kind of election concerns that you, the general body, might have. Okay, I'm going to try to get this all in one video. We'll see. I may have to just, break it up. Let's just get into it on this fine, gloomy, rainy March 27th, 2024. Okay, so here we go. Glasses. There are two elected positions within G.I. Joe Real American Hero Costume Club, the Sector Command Officer and the Team Leader, and I kind of touched on this a little bit in the other videos. All other positions, for the exception of the founders, are appointed by elected officers. In other words, us founders, club advisors, we are permanent, or in the case of a club advisor, possibly permanent appointment, but they're not elected positions at all. The only elected positions are the basically the club CO, the sector command officer, and the chapter CO, which would be the team leader. The sector command officers shall have the freedom to choose their own top brass staff. Okay, that's a perk of that's the benefit of the job, is that they get to choose their own admin staff. As well, the elected team leader shall choose their own team leader. So, again, membership has its perks. Being elected has its perks. Elections are held, and so this is fluid. If we ever decide to do elections mid-year, because we don't currently do elections, as of this time, in the nearly 13 years we've been in existence, we've never had elections because we've never had people that wanted to step up. But how I have structured it is it's a 1-year term, January to December. But it's fluid. We could change it. We could do April to April or April to end of March, what have you. Okay, but for all intents and purposes of how the charter's written, this is how I'm just going to put it out. So elections are held in the month of December so that the transition of power can take place on January 1st of the following year. Elected terms are for a period of 1 year, January 1st through December 31st. Only members of good standing qualify to run for or hold leadership positions. And what that means, membership in good standing, is basically if you aren't under any investigation for any kind of misconduct, or you haven't been disciplined for anything, and you're, like, say, under a probation or something like that. That's what that means. Good conduct, member of good standing means that you're not in any trouble. You're not under any investigation, and you're not under any punishment, right? Because that disqualifies you from holding any kind of office. Okay. Voting protocols. So let's get down to the basics there. The sector command officer is voted in by all active members of the G.I. Joe Real American Hero Costume Club. The only exception to that rule is, like, if we have any JOCAD, because they're minors, they're not eligible to vote. So those are the only club members that would not be able to vote. I'm sorry, non-members, because you're not an official member of this club, guests of other clubs, like our sister clubs and all that. Obviously, you don't. If I don't have a right to vote in your club's elections, it's the same for you as well. It's only the bona fide ARAH club members that are allowed to vote in these elections, as it should be. The team leaders will be voted on by the active members of their respective teams only, right? So you can't have any shenanigans of somebody from outside of that area of influence voting on team members. The only exception to that rule would be, like, say, I'm going to use Oregon and Washington, for instance. Say we have a Vancouver member that wanted to be part of the Oregon team because geographically, Vancouver is just right across the river from Portland, right? So, like, the Vancouver folks would probably have more opportunities to participate as an Oregon member than as a Washington member. That would be the only exception to the rule. Those members who declare themselves being part of, like, say, the Oregon team, that would be, from Vancouver, they're the only ones that are outside of the geographic location of Oregon. Those would be the only ones that would be allowed to vote in that situation. All voting is done by poll. In each individual team section on the message board, this is when we had a message board. We'll have to figure something else out since we've migrated to Facebook. Realistically, again, because I have a Facebook group and I'm the owner of the Facebook group and I can set up chats, we could do that. We could set up chats in that regard that, and you can invite certain folks to those chats. So we could do it that way. We could set it up so that those chats are relegated to those specific teams. Ideally, I'd love to have a message board on a website where we could do something like that. But I mean, that's kicking the ball down the road there. But something along those lines. Or other designated media outlet that is able to keep an accurate account of the vote. So, I mean, like I said, Facebook or whatever. The schedule for voting protocol shall look something like this, okay? December 1st, your sector command first sergeant will announce elections. It's election time. He or she will ask for nominations for the elected positions. From the 2nd to the 7th of December, again, this is fluid. I mean, it could be any given month here or whatever, but for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to put this here. That's the nomination period. That's the open nomination period. From the 8th to the 14th, nominated parties will have this time period to confirm their nomination, right? So just because you're nominated doesn't mean that, you want the job. And if you don't want the job, we're not going to force it on you. But basically, sector command first sergeant announces we're having elections. Okay, the next day for a week is open nominations. The following week is nomination confirmation. All right. On December 15th, the sector command first sergeant will validate the eligibility of the nominated individuals and sets up the election poll for those candidates. In other words, he or she's going to double check to make sure that they're not, that they're still members of good standing. They're not under investigation. They're not under any kind of penalty or anything like that. And if they're good, then we proceed. December 16th through the 21st, the polls are open. December 22nd, votes are counted and elected parties are announced. And then should there be a tie-breaking vote, then I have protocols for that down the line. Should there be a tiebreaker, that's December 23rd through the 26th is reserved for a runoff election. So if it comes down to two people, then we're going to do another cycle, and it'll come down to the general membership votes for A or B, not whoever had put their name in. December 27th through the 29th, the top brass will vote on contested elections as necessary. And again, I'm going to get into that later. The 23rd to the 31st, that is the period of transition of power, meaning that's the old administration holding over the reins to the new administration. That's passing on passwords to certain things, if that's, whatever the case may be. It is, that's the period for the transition of power. Of course, that is in the uncontested election results. And if there's anything other than that, then, a final thought on that, because I'm going to do tie-breaking protocols and election concerns in the next video. But this is very important here. At no time, and I mean this, at no time, I will automatically disqualify those of you who choose to run for an election in the future. I will automatically disqualify you immediately if you do one of the following. At no time will there be any campaigning or politicking for said elected positions. Let me make this clear. We are a club. We are supposed to be a fan base. We're supposed to be friends. This is the G.I. Joe family. Just because you see politicians, throwing mud at each other, slinging insults, I don't want that crap here. I've seen too much of that in other clubs, and it causes hurt feelings, and it causes divide in friendships, and I'm just not going to have it. While a questions and answers thread may be started, at no time will candidates resort to campaigning and such, right? You can answer questions. If questions are asked of you, answer questions. I would say that in the Q&A, what you should be limited to doing is saying, this is my vision for the future. This is what I plan to do in my administration should I be elected, and leave it at that. All right. That's about the extent of any kind of campaigning or politicking you should ever do. Right. What I don't want to see is you folks mudslinging each other, saying, well, I'm a better candidate because this person can't do this, and this. I'm a better candidate because I can do this, and this. I'm a better candidate, blah, 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 blah. It's a case-by-case basis, I suppose, but, I suppose you could list your accolades, but if listing your accolades turns into mudslinging, I'm going to have an issue with that. So, how about we just stick to, this is my vision for the future. This is my vision for this year. Let's do that. And I can't see any hurt feelings, and if someone has a thin skin on that, then I mean that's really kind of their issue. But I don't want any politicking. I don't want any campaigning. So basically, you can answer questions, but do so without slandering or attacking your opponent in the election. Once there's any slandering or personal attacks, that person will be disqualified immediately. I mean, if I don't step in, the command for sergeant should. And if the command for sergeant doesn't, like I said, I definitely will. I'm not going to have that in this club. This club is meant to be prosperous and have unity. We're all here for the same thing because of our love for G.I. Joe. So let's remember that. The number one rule of this club is to have fun. I've said this many times, and I'll say it again, right? So if the number one rule is to have fun, then that means we keep the nonsense out. Okay? Fun cannot exist in a hostile environment. Therefore, campaigning and politicking are strictly forbidden. Any candidate who breaches this protocol will be removed from the running for the elected position. That goes without saying. Barring any complications, once the election is concluded, typically by the third week of December, the last week of December will be the transition period between outgoing officers and new incoming officers, and I already kind of touched over that. But yeah, I can't stress that enough. Absolutely no campaigning, no politicking. I will not have it. And I don't care if you're like my best friend in this club or you're someone I get along with. Whatever, rules are rules, and I will. This is one of them that I will strictly adhere to, simply because in my experience, campaigning and politicking has disrupted the harmony of the unit. It has disrupted harmony within the club, and it has caused breaches in friendship. So let's not do that nonsense. Okay. So this is getting on almost 15 minutes. So I'm going to say, Yo Joe, Cobra, knowing is half the battle. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm going to get tie-breaking protocols and election concerns in the next video. So stay tuned for that. Have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.